My name's Andrew. I'm 32, and for the past few years, I've been the unofficial backbone of my extended family. Not that anyone ever says it out loud. I'm not the loud one, not the married one with 5 kids, not the golden child who shows up late and still gets praised for breathing. I'm the quiet one who's always working, the one they call when a car breaks down, when someone needs help moving, when there's a fundraiser or event, and we just need someone to handle logistics. I always say yes. Always show up. Never complain. It started small, helping my cousin Lauren plan her graduation party, organizing the family barbecue when Uncle Ken broke his ankle, paying the deposit for my aunt's surprise birthday bash when my older brother forgot his wallet. I didn't mind. I've done well for myself. I work in tech, I freelance on the side, and I live a pretty low-key life. It felt good to help. At least, it did for a while. Lately, though, I've started to notice a pattern. My name is never on the thank you cards. Nobody tags me in the family photos. At the last Christmas dinner, I ended up seated at the folding table in the corner, next to the toddlers, because my spot had been accidentally given to someone's new boyfriend. When I quietly got up to leave early, no one even noticed. That was the first time I felt it, the bitter edge of being invisible in plain sight. But nothing compared to what happened at Lauren's engagement party last Saturday. It was a big event, held at a vineyard about 40 minutes outside the city. I knew the place well because I was the one who found it. My uncle had casually mentioned they were over budget, and I'd stepped in, offered to cover the deposit just to help out. No need to mention it, I told them. Just want Lauren to have a great day. Dumb, right? I arrived about 20 minutes after the official start time. I wasn't late. It was one of those events where people trickled in slowly, and the real festivities didn't kick off until sunset. I parked down by the gravel lot, slipped my gift into the designated basket near the welcome arch, and made my way up to the patio, where everyone was mingling, laughing, and sipping champagne under string lights. Everything looked perfect. Rustic charm, live DJ, catered hors d'oeuvres, exactly the vibe Lauren had gushed about when we toured the place together 2 months ago. I was walking toward the bar when I noticed the gift bags. They were on a long white table just outside the tent, neatly lined up with personalized tags. For Emma, with love. To Uncle Rick, thank you for always being there. Aunt Carol, you're the heart of this family. Sweet little touches. Candles, fancy cookies, handwritten notes. It was thoughtful, but something felt off. My name wasn't there. I scanned the whole table, checked under a few extra bags, even peeked behind a floral centerpiece. Nothing. At first, I told myself maybe they were keeping some in the back. Maybe mine was inside, or they'd just forgotten to set it out. But then I heard Aunt Carol, loud as ever, laughing just behind me. "Oh, Andrew," she said, her voice a little too bright, a little too sharp. "Looking for your goodie bag?" I turned, half smiling, pretending not to be thrown. "Yeah, just curious. Didn't see one." She waved her hand dismissively and sipped her wine. "We only made them for people who actually contribute to the family." I blinked. For a second, I thought she was joking. I waited for the punchline. But she just raised her eyebrows like it was the most obvious thing in the world and walked away, heels clicking against the stone tiles, her laughter trailing behind her like perfume. I just stood there. I could feel the heat rising up my neck. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was embarrassed. I felt like I'd been slapped in front of a crowd. People walked past me, smiling, nodding, completely unaware. But my mind was already spiraling. Every time I'd shown up when no one else did, every deposit I'd made, every favor I'd done quietly and without expecting credit. And now I was being dismissed like some mooch who just showed up to eat shrimp and leave. I didn't follow Aunt Carol. I didn't cause a scene. I went to the bar, ordered something cold and strong, and found a quiet spot near the edge of the vineyard where the music was softer and the shadows longer. That's when I pulled out my phone. See, I hadn't just paid the venue deposit. I had signed the contract. Back when we were still touring places, Lauren had been nervous. She didn't have great credit, and my uncle didn't want to put his name on another big financial commitment. I told them I could handle it. They sent me the paperwork, and I signed on the dotted line, told them to pay me back whenever. I never expected to hold it over them. But now I was sitting alone at a party I'd helped create, being treated like some kind of outsider. Not family. Not enough. I opened the email thread with the venue manager, scrolled down to the part about cancellations, took a deep breath, and started typing. "Hi, Amelia. Just confirming that we'd like to proceed with the cancellation of the reservation for tonight's event. Please let me know if you need anything else from my side. It felt petty. I stared at the message for a long moment. My thumb hovered over the send button. Then I thought of Aunt Carol's face. The way she'd smirked. The way Lauren hadn't even said hello when I arrived. The way I'd never been seen, never been acknowledged, never been appreciated, just used. I hit send. Nothing happened right away, of course. The music was still playing, the lights still twinkling, the laughter still floating across the patio. People were posing for selfies near the flower wall. The caterers were laying out the next round of appetizers. 10 minutes passed, maybe 15, and then the music stopped. Not a fade out, not a transition, just cut. People turned. Heads swiveled toward the DJ booth, where a man in a black shirt was holding up his phone, confused. A few seconds later, a woman in a headset rushed out from the back office, followed by a man in a suit. The vineyard manager, Amelia's assistant, I guessed. They were scanning the crowd, looking for someone, looking for me. I stood up slowly, drink still in hand, and took a small sip, letting the silence settle over the room like dust. One by one, conversations died. Lauren came out of the tent, her dress swishing behind her, frowning as she looked around. My uncle was by the bar, already red in the face, muttering to the bartender. I didn't move. I didn't wave them over. I just waited, because that was the moment everything shifted. And that's when the real party started. The first person to actually notice me standing alone near the edge of the patio was Uncle Rick, the fun uncle. The one who always made himself the center of attention, but disappeared the second real work needed doing. He made a beeline toward me, trying to keep his smile casual even though the corners of his mouth were twitching with panic. "Hey, Andy," he said, resting a hand on my shoulder like we were old pals. "There seems to be a little, mix-up with the DJ. Any idea what's going on?" I sipped my drink, letting the silence hang just long enough to make him sweat. "Not sure," I said evenly. "You might want to check with the venue manager. She should be around here somewhere." I could see the confusion on his face, the flicker of suspicion. But before he could ask another question, Amelia appeared. She walked straight up to me, her voice low but firm. "Hi, Andrew. I just got your email. Are you certain you want to proceed with the cancellation? Because if so, we need to start clearing the space within the next 15 minutes. Per contract terms." Rick's face paled. "Wait, what?" I didn't answer. I just looked at Amelia. "Yes, I'm sure." A ripple of tension passed through the group that had started gathering around us. People were whispering now, eyes darting between me, Amelia, and Rick like we were performing some unscripted drama. Rick held up his hands. "Hold on. This has to be a misunderstanding. Why would you cancel? This is Lauren's engagement party." Amelia looked from him to me. "Andrew is the primary signatory and payer on the contract. Per our terms, he has the right to terminate the reservation as long as the final balance hasn't been paid," which it hasn't. That was true. I had only paid the deposit. The rest, the bulk of it, was still unpaid. They were supposed to reimburse me tonight. Funny how that part got forgotten in all the family speeches and catered mini quiches. Rick turned on me then, voice tightening. "You can't be serious." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Carol said I don't contribute to this family, so I decided to act accordingly." And with that, I stepped back and let the chaos unfold. Lauren rushed over next. Her heels clicked furiously against the stone tiles, her engagement ring catching the fading sunlight as she waved her hand around wildly. "Andrew, are you kidding me right now? You're going to ruin my entire party because of what?" "A joke." I raised an eyebrow. "A joke? Your mom was pretty serious about it. She was being sarcastic. You know how she is." I shook my head. "No, Lauren. I know how all of you are." There was a beat of silence, just long enough for Lauren to realize that this wasn't going to be fixed with a pout and a tearful apology. I took another slow sip of my drink. I've been over backwards for this family. Paid bills, booked venues, stepped in when no one else could be bothered. And it's never enough. I don't do it for praise, but I'm done being disrespected. Lauren's face contorted into something between disbelief and rage. "This isn't about you. This is my engagement." "And you're right," I said quietly. "It's not about me. Not anymore." At that moment, Amelia stepped forward again, clipboard in hand. "I'm sorry, but we do need to start breaking down the audio equipment and prepping the space for closure. Do you want to help us coordinate with your family, Andrew?" I nodded once. Sure. The DJ was already packing up. Caterers began slowly wheeling trays and stands toward the back. Decorations were being unplugged, lights dimmed. One by one, guests began murmuring awkward goodbyes, unsure whether to stay or flee. Some of the younger cousins were wide-eyed, clutching gift bags. One little girl tugged on her mom's sleeve and asked, "Is the party over already?" The mom, Emma, my cousin who hadn't spoken to me since she borrowed money last spring and never paid it back, shot me a venomous look but didn't answer her daughter. Uncle Rick and Aunt Carol were arguing near the bar. Lauren had stormed off to the bathroom in tears. And there I was, still sipping the same drink. Finally, being seen. I wasn't angry anymore. That passed the second I hit send. What I felt now was something colder. Clearer. I felt done. Amelia came back a few minutes later with a clipboard. "Would you like to keep the deposit for a future event, or have it refunded?" "Refunded," I said without hesitation. "Every penny." She nodded and walked off. And just like that, the sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the now empty patio. Aunt Carol approached next. No drink in her hand. No laughter. Just tight lips and darting eyes. "Andrew, can we talk?" I didn't respond. She glanced around, maybe to make sure no one was watching, then leaned in. "You embarrassed this family tonight." I looked her in the eye. "No, Carol, you did." She opened her mouth to respond, but I turned and walked away. Let her stew in it. Let them all stew in it. Because for once, I wasn't going to fix everything. And for once, they were going to feel exactly how I had felt for years. Invisible, unimportant, and left out. But what happened next? Well, that's where things really got interesting. Because 2 days later, something arrived in my mailbox, and it changed everything. 2 mornings later, I was in the middle of my usual routine. Coffee brewing, laptop booting up, inbox loading, when I spotted the thick, cream-colored envelope tucked between two catalogs in the mailbox. It wasn't junk mail. Heavy stock, gold-trimmed edges. No return address, just my name written in familiar cursive across the front. At first, I thought maybe it was from the venue, some kind of formal cancellation confirmation, or maybe a thank you for my business. But as I opened it and unfolded the paper, my stomach dropped. It was an invitation to Lauren's rescheduled engagement party. Same tone, same flowery language, different venue. This time, a fancy hotel ballroom downtown. And right there in the center of the letter, printed in bold serif font, "Hosted with love by the Carter family, especially Aunt Carol, our event angel." I stared at those words for a long time. No mention of me. No acknowledgement. Nothing about the vineyard or the party that had imploded because of me. According to this letter, the first one never even happened. It wasn't just insulting. It was deliberate. Rewriting the story, erasing the parts that didn't flatter them, like they were brushing dust off a rug and pretending the floor was spotless all along. Attached was a small RSVP card, no box to check for +1, just a blank line for my name and a checkbox next to "will attend." It was almost funny. They actually expected me to show up. Part of me wanted to toss the whole thing in the trash and forget it. But another part, the part that remembered how I'd stood on that patio, invisible until I stopped playing the game, knew better. No, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't RSVP. Not right away. Instead, I waited. I wanted to see what they'd do next. By Friday, the calls started. The first was from my cousin Emma. "Hey," she drawled, the fake sweetness almost painful. "Just wanted to check in. Did you get the invite?" Lauren's so excited. She's, like, really hoping you'll come this time. This time, like the first time was some shared hallucination. I stayed polite. Got the invite. Haven't decided. There was a pause. "Oh, okay, cool. Well, let us know. Aunt Carol really worked hard on this one, you know?" I let that hang in the air. "Sure," I said, then hung up. The next call came from Uncle Rick. "Less sugar, more pressure. Listen, Andrew, we're trying to move forward. No need to dwell on what happened. Let's just keep the peace, yeah?" I laughed. "You mean the party I paid for that everyone pretends didn't exist?" His voice tightened. "Come on, don't make this difficult." "I'm not," I replied. "I'm just not pretending." Click. Then came the text from Lauren herself. "I really hope you'll come. We're family. What happened at the vineyard was unnecessary and really put a damper on everything. Please don't make this next one awkward too." No apology. No ownership. Just deflection. As if I'd been the storm, not the one standing in the middle of it without an umbrella. But what really pushed me over the edge came the following Monday, during lunch at work. A colleague, someone I only knew in passing, slid into the seat across from me in the break room with a smirk. "Hey, you're Lauren Carter's cousin, right?" I blinked. "Yeah, why?" He pulled out his phone and showed me a reel from Instagram. It was from Lauren's account. The caption, "When your first engagement party goes down in flames, but you bounce back stronger, ring woman dancing, hashtag real ones only." The video was a fast-cut montage. Guests dancing at the new venue, smiling selfies with Aunt Carol, champagne towers, a clip of the hotel staff setting up floral arrangements. And then, buried in the middle like a joke, a low-resolution shot of the vineyard's empty patio. The lights dimmed, chairs half-stacked, silent and deserted. Aunt Carol's voice echoed in the background. "Guess some people can't handle being left off the guest list." Laughter. Real laughter. They had mocked me. Publicly. To an audience. I felt something in my chest tighten. Not anger. Not really. Just a cold, sharp clarity. They wanted to erase me, then humiliate me for not letting them. I closed the app, finished my lunch, and walked back to my office in silence. That night, I opened a folder on my desktop I hadn't touched in weeks. It was labeled Carter Events, Docs. Inside, contracts, receipts, timelines. Every email thread from Lauren's first party. Every invoice from the caterers. A copy of the venue agreement, the refund confirmation. Even the thank you note Amelia, the venue manager, had sent me afterward. And then I opened the email draft I'd been sitting on since the day after the first party. Subject line, a formal clarification regarding the engagement event at Crestview Vineyard. I started writing. Not to them. To everyone else. Vendors. Guests. The venue. The people who had asked questions quietly, behind the scenes, wondering what had happened that night when the lights went out and the party fell apart. There was no yelling. No demands. Just facts. I attached copies of the receipts. I added a few polite lines about protecting my professional relationships and reputation. And just before hitting send, I added one last line. As I will not be attending the rescheduled event, please consider this a courtesy clarification in light of any narratives currently circulating online. Then I sent it to everyone on Lauren's original guest list. And that's when things started to unravel. Not for me, for them. But what happened next, with Aunt Carol, with Lauren's sponsors, even the venue they tried to book for the wedding, took things to a whole new level. By the next morning, my inbox was overflowing. I hadn't expected the reaction to be that fast or that widespread. But I underestimated just how many people had been confused after the first party, and how many were quietly furious about being left in the dark. The emails came in waves. One guest wrote, "I thought something was weird that night, but Lauren told everyone it was a technical glitch. Thanks for explaining." Another said, "Wait, you were the one who booked the vineyard?" She made it sound like Aunt Carol pulled it all together. But the real shock came when I received a message from a man named Derek. I vaguely recognized the name from Lauren's earlier gushing posts. He worked in PR for a wedding influencer Lauren had somehow wrangled into featuring her engagement party on their blog. He wasn't rude, just concerned. "Hey Andrew, just saw your email and wanted to say thanks. We've taken down the promotional post that ran this week. The event's cancellation wasn't disclosed to us, and neither was your involvement. That's a serious omission. If you need anything from our side, let me know." Just like that, the image Lauren had worked so hard to build, her perfect engagement, her curated aesthetic, started to crack. And that's when things got even worse for them. 2 days later, I received a voicemail from Crestview Vineyard. "Hi Andrew, it's Amelia. Just wanted to let you know we've been contacted by several vendors asking about what really happened with the canceled event. We've clarified with them, of course, and also, just so you're aware, we've had a booking inquiry from someone in the Carter family for a wedding date in September. Given the nature of your experience and the fact that your name is still flagged in our system as primary on the last event, we've decided not to move forward with their request. Hope that's okay." That broke me. Not out of guilt. Not out of regret. I broke into laughter. Uncontrollable, breathless laughter. They had tried to erase me. Instead, they erased themselves. Still, I hadn't heard anything directly from Lauren. Not a call, not a message, not even a snide social media post, which was how I knew things were really serious. Silence meant strategy. Silence meant damage control. The storm finally came on a Sunday night. It was just after 10 p.m. when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but I recognized the number. Lauren. I picked up. Hello. There was a pause, and then her voice came through, small and shaky. Was it worth it? I leaned back in my chair. Was what worth it? You ruined everything, Andrew, she hissed. The vendors are pulling out, the blog deleted the post, and Crestview won't take us for the wedding. Do you know how hard I worked to get all of that? Oh, I'm well aware, I said calmly. That's why I made sure everyone else knew how hard I worked too. There was another pause, this one longer. Then, almost a whisper, you're supposed to be my cousin. I said, and I was a good one. Until your mom laughed in my face, and you stood by and said nothing. Until you turned me into a villain in your little highlight reel. You wanted to erase me. So I removed myself, and the foundation you were standing on. Her voice cracked then. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Neither did I. I just wanted to be treated with respect. She didn't reply, and for once, I didn't try to fill the silence. Eventually, she hung up. I turned my phone over on the table and just sat there for a long time, staring at the wall, the shadows moving as the streetlight outside flickered on. I wasn't proud of how it had all gone down. I'm not the kind of person who enjoys revenge or conflict or tearing people down. But I was done being the family's doormat. The fallout rippled through the next few weeks like aftershocks. Aunt Carol tried to rally the rest of the family, painting me as vindictive, bitter, jealous. But people weren't buying it anymore. Not after they saw the receipts. Literally. Emma stopped replying to messages after I asked about the money she owed me. Uncle Rick called once more, only to mutter something about overreactions and then hang up when I didn't budge. The wedding was quietly postponed. Lauren and her fiancé claimed it was due to logistical issues, but I knew the truth. No vendors wanted to touch them after word got out that the original engagement party had imploded due to unpaid balances and false claims. And me? I took a break. I stopped attending family functions for a while. Skipped a birthday, declined a group brunch invite. Let the silence do the talking. I think that hurt them more than anything else. Because without me, the gears stopped turning. They realized the person they had dismissed, belittled, and excluded had been the glue, the planner, the helper, the quiet force that kept the machine running. Weeks later, I got a small card in the mail. Plain envelope, no return address. Inside, a simple message. We didn't realize how much you did until you weren't there. We're sorry. No signature. No name. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Aunt Carol. I didn't respond. Forgiveness is free, but access is earned. And I'd spent too long giving everything for nothing in return. So now, I live a little quieter, a little freer. I still show up for the people who matter, my sister, my close cousins who actually checked in on me during the fallout. But the rest? I let them stay in their curated fantasy world, where engagement parties run on air and the help always shows up, no questions asked. Except now, they know the truth. They know that behind every perfect event, there was someone quietly holding the strings. And now those strings are cut, not out of spite, out of peace. Because the moment I stopped trying to prove my worth to people who never saw it, was the moment I finally found it. And it felt damn good.